Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. A grand jury in the US state of Mississippi has chosen not to indict a white woman whose accusations of assault against a 14-year-old black boy led to his brutal murder nearly 70 years ago. The lynching of the teenager, Emmett Till, galvanised the civil rights movement in the United States in the 1950s. Here's Gary O'Donoghue.
A brutal act of torture and murder inflicted on a black child of 14 years old. To this day, the facts are disputed, but the nature of the race-based summary justice meted out is not. The discovery of recent documents and an unpublished memoir by Carolyn Bryant Donham raised the possibility of new charges, but a jury in Mississippi has concluded there's insufficient evidence. The case became a rallying cry for the civil rights movement, with Emmett Till's mother leaving the boy's coffin open during the funeral so everyone could see what had been done to her son.
A day after Donald Trump denounced the unprecedented search of his Florida home by FBI agents, the former US president has released a campaign-style video that analysts say is the strongest hint yet he intends to run for president in 2024.
We are a nation that has the highest inflation in over 40 years, where the stock market just finished the worst first half of a year in more than 5 decades. We are a nation that has the highest energy cost in its history, and we are no longer energy independent or energy dominant, which we were just 2 short years ago.
Several leading Republicans, including the former Vice President Mike Pence, have joined in Mr. Trump's accusations that he was the victim of a Democrat-led witch hunt. Russia has played down a series of explosions at a military airfield on the Crimean Peninsula, which it annexed from Ukraine in 2014. The Russian Defense Ministry said munitions had exploded in a store and denied that the airfield had come under attack. The military-led government in Guinea has issued a decree dissolving the country's leading opposition movement, the FNDC, which it accuses of using violence during what it calls banned demonstrations. Our Africa regional editor Will Ross reports.
It seems the authorities in Guinea are worried about the possibility of protests gaining momentum. Friction's been growing for months between the FNDC opposition movement and the military-led government. The FNDC has called for countrywide demonstrations next week at a time when some Guineans want the military to speed up the return to civilian rule. The men who seized power last year want a 3-year transition. The decree dissolving the opposition movement says its behaviour threatens national unity and peace. If people do take to the streets to protest, it would be no surprise if there's a violent response from the military.
World News from the BBC. There have been violent clashes between Palestinians and Israelis throughout the occupied West Bank after Israeli troops shot dead a wanted Palestinian militant in a morning raid in Nablus. The military launched a missile at the home of Ibrahim Nabulsi at the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, saying he'd refused to surrender. It said another militant also died. A 16-year-old boy was killed in unclear circumstances. After the funerals of the three, unrest spread throughout the territory. Police in New Mexico have detained and charged a suspect in the killings of 4 Muslim men in the state's biggest city, Albuquerque. The police chief named the suspect as Mohammed Saeed and said he was the driver of a vehicle they had been tracking down as part of their investigation. He's said to have known the victims personally. The World Health Organization has stressed that the monkeypox outbreak that's prompted it to declare a global health emergency is not linked to monkeys. Following reports of a growing number of attacks on the primates in Brazil, a WHO spokeswoman said in Geneva that the recent explosion in cases is connected with close contact transmission between humans, and despite its name, monkeys were not the main transmitters. Brazil has registered over 1,700 cases of monkeypox and 1 death. In what's thought to be one of the largest ever dog rescue efforts in the US, homes are being sought for 4,000 beagles that have been bred for drug experiments. Animal rescue organisations are removing the dogs from a Virginia facility that's being closed down for animal welfare violations. The US Justice Department has sued the company involved. The beagles are now being given medical examinations and vaccinations before being made available for adoption. Kitty Block is the president of the Humane Society of the United States.
We were incredibly honored when the Department of Justice reached out to us. For something of this magnitude, this is what our animal rescue team does. What people imagine is the impossible, this is what we make possible.
BBC News.